Hello everyone. Welcome to this second episode of Finalysis Interactions. Today I have with me Dinesh Prasad, who wears so many hats. He's co-founder of Bluesky Inventions. He is an investor. He's a mentor to many startups, and he's also on board of some of the companies. Hi Dinesh, welcome to the interactions.
Hi Faisal, how are you?
I'm fine. So, Dinesh, starting this discussion, I just wanted to understand, how come you decided to go for this startup mode? Because I remember, one of the CXOs once told me that, he wants to get into this mode, but, you know, the SMS which comes towards the month end makes him weak. So how come, I come across many, people who are in, corporates, uh, in the corporate world, they find it very difficult to make a move. So how come this decision?
No, it's a very nicely said by the person that you talked to. So it's been 4 years since I left my corporate journey, right? And I spent 17 years with Qualcomm and then few other very large companies like Ericsson for a few years, and then I started with BSNL, that in from a which is the telecom journey beginning for any aspiring telecom guy those days, right?
Right.
So it's been a good 25 years in the industry, and so the way I look at it, like there is a touch point, right? When you are about to get to 50 at the age, or you go past 50 age. Okay, so I
Mhm.
have always had a feeling that if you want to do something more creative and you want to risk yourself, be young forever, you have to take the plunge. Okay.
Okay.
So luckily, the past 25 years have been golden years for telecom space, and I've had the liberty of riding the best flight that I could take, right, in multiple companies across the globe and all that. So obviously, the SMS is of interest to everybody, but at the end of the day, I didn't want to get stuck in that SMS expectations,
Mhm.
because I always had an entrepreneurial aspiration. And the best thing I've realized that in the corporate world, once you start reaching the top pyramid, uh, the the essence of life becomes managing your position in the company rather than doing anything creative in the company. Okay, so that's the sad part of any corporate organization, which is unsaid and unexposed theory, but that's the reality. And this is not limited to India; it's a global phenomena. Okay, so the only way for me to remain young at heart and young at mind and learn new things, which is what I've been aspiring for, was to go and join hands with these guys who are coming from great colleges, great startups, great innovation that's happening, and try and help these guys from scaling it up.
Mhm.
And so I said the best way to scale that up is to put your head in the sink first, right? So get onto the pond to and learn to swim first, right? So that's the journey we started with a startup company that I floated immediately. I left out, which was more in the domain that I came in from, which was in the software services platform creation solutions around that.
Right.
And so we built a team in Bangalore, and with one of my co-founder, actually a couple of my co-founders who were ex-Samsung guys, and so I had the tech powerhouse, and then I had my own strength of the ecosystem connections, which I enjoyed thanks to Qualcomm, and we felt that we could make something out of it, right? So, and that's the organization which has been live and doing fairly well, with completely bootstrapped at this point of time, and we are profitable, and we're running the operations. So I'll talk a little bit more on that company as we
Sure.
move
Sure.
forward.
Sure. Sure.
Apart from that, there has been like you just talked about it. Like there's been multiple engagements with multiple startups in the IoT space, in the blockchain space, in the health space, fintech. So it's been very diverse, and I try and keep my portfolio very diverse
Right.
because it keeps me going also. So,
Hmm.
so that's the brief, right? So it's not just about the check SMS that makes you happy every day. It's also about exciting stuff when you wake up every day. You look forward to what's the next new stuff you're going to learn around.
Yeah, yeah. I believe perhaps, entrepreneur is always on that Maslow's hierarchy theory. And, somewhere you try to, touch that summit. And that's what, makes you jump into entrepreneurship. Perhaps that's the only reason. Otherwise, uh, you know, checks and SMSs definitely take care
It's about
nicely.
being in yourself, right? So it's very important when you get into entrepreneurship, right? And that's the acid test that everybody has to go through, which people, not everybody can do it. People are scared about uh,
Mm-hmm.
the job security is obviously the highest important for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
if you are in a slightly financially stable position, you are well taken care of, then you can plunge into all of it. So it's not
Right.
a straightforward recommendation to any corporate guy.
Okay. And what would be that financial stability? Like there are many benchmarks. Some people say you should have enough to take care of your, essential expenses for at least a year. Some say 6 months. Is there any benchmark? Is there any formula for that?
No, there's no benchmark. Everybody has his own lifestyle, and
Mm.
the minimum expectation is, your family should not suffer
Right.
because you want to do something very more experimental and aspirational. So as
Right.
long as you can take care of that, the family is not impacted, and your regular expenses are well covered in
Hmm.
or out of the corporate world. In the entrepreneur side, you are okay. So that's a big difference, right? See,
Right.
people like us, when we leave corporate world, we leave it at a certain age where you have a independent community behind you, or dependent family behind you. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Your own direct family, indirect family, extended family. So there are expectations. But if you look at the young lot which is coming out from college, for them there's no liability at this point. So they're
Right.
experimenting for themselves, right? So
Mm-hmm.
their impact on the commercials are insignificant compared to a corporate guy who's moving out. Right? So
Right. Right. So you said you spent around 17 years in Qualcomm. Now, Qualcomm recently celebrated 35 years. So that's almost half of the age of Qualcomm you spent there. That's, I think, remarkable. So
yeah,
tell us something about some interesting things while working in Qualcomm. And I think, it was an interesting era while Qualcomm was also kind of growing, and
yeah.
we had mobile coming in, and then, data, whatever you call disruption or whatever took place, and essentially the wireless bit took place. So how do you see the industry then and now? What are the major differentiators in your opinion?
Yeah, so if you look at my journey alone, so started way back in '95 with Qualcomm, and there was hardly any telecom story that time, right? So
Right.
we were the first few blessed guys in the telecom space, and the only other guys who knew anything about telecom were the defense guys. Okay,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
they were using signals and stuff around that, so they were the only capable guys who understood anything about technology. But
Right.
it, is always a little bit more aged than the contemporary requirement. So while they were good at a certain level, they were not the best fit for deploying new age technologies. Okay,
Hmm.
so so that's the journey. If you look at '95 to 2000, 2001, the telecom space had just kind of started picking up globally with
Hmm.
the CDMA getting off the ground, GSM network getting rolled out, phones becoming a part of life, right? So that is a journey I have seen from practically no competition to getting into some competition, right? So at this so 2000 to 2010 was the era where you saw a lot of telecom companies coming in, having large scale pan India deployments, 2G, 3G getting rolled out and stuff in a large way. You started seeing some teledensity coming into the picture in India. So obviously, at that point, it was more about a great service to be offered to any aspiring user who started understanding the power of connectivity. Okay, from a traditional landline to a mobile, how does the life change? What's the GDP impact? How do people perceive, change the whole dynamics around on a daily need basis, right? 2010 onward, the competition started becoming a little bit more steep with the multiple telecom companies trying to figure out their P&L and trying to see how you can balance the service with quality with the right money and the affordability was getting challenged till we got Geo in place who made it extremely affordable with voice data and everything. So obviously, and it started the era of consolidation between the telcos and all that. But
Right.
in the process, I was not in the operator side of the domain. I was more on the supply side where I was trying to drive the engagement more on the device ecosystem or the content or the app ecosystem. Those were the two drivers from a service perspective. And operators are definitely important because they become the technological execution partners, right? So any new technology needs to be first adopted, executed by a telco. So all the three pieces was basically interesting ecosystem engagement that Qualcomm could offer. No other company can offer that kind of a very strategic, engaging relationship with every part of the ecosystem, and
Right.
that gave huge impetus or huge connection for me to understand the industry challenges, understand consumer aspirations, and also understand how the technology can change the life of a common man. Okay.
Right. So, I think you put it nicely and you summed, I was kind of in the time machine and understanding, what happened all these years. Now coming on to Blue Sky. So, uh, I think we have heard sky is the limit, but, we'll want to understand more from you why Blue Sky and all that. So what was the, like, how does this idea came up? Like, yes, we wanted, say, a browser for India, and how has the journey been so far?
Yeah, so we started Blue Sky sometime in early 2017, and like you said, sky's the limit. So our key tagline that we say is we thrive on value-based innovation. So we're not a classic engineering services company who believe
Hmm.
in body shopping and stuff around that. So we are not that. So we felt like there are areas which needed a little bit of more focus when it comes to a very compelling product like a browser, okay, for example, or when it comes to security or blockchain or some of these advanced services that we wanted to see how we can do. Coming back to just the browser part, because that's an interesting discussion given the macro dynamics of
Right,
India,
right.
China, and apps being blocked and all that. So
Mm.
when we started 2017, we realized that the browser is a slightly more complex topic, and we couldn't find any credible company in India who was trying to take head on with the likes of UC browser, Opera, or even Chrome, for example. And there were always debates about why would somebody want to have another browser than the Chrome default browser which comes on the smartphone. So if you look at what happened in 2016-15 onward, is where the adoption of internet started
Mm.
shifting from the what you call is the mature users who were already on internet using laptops in the corporate or the home segment. They started getting into the internet space first time on mobile phones,
Right.
and they had no clue about how internet works, what to look, what not to look. Google was kind of Android was taking off in a big way. Affordability became very interesting from a consumer standpoint, both from a capital value of the smartphone versus the data value from an OpEx standpoint. We started seeing a lot of traction happening, but they needed somebody who can help them get the right stuff on the phone, right? And
Mm.
we didn't want people to buy a BlackBerry and use it for a voice call only, right? So
Mm.
when I used to see some results from telcos, and I used to get some very surprising data that the X percentage of BlackBerry or iOS users just use it as a fashion statement. They don't know what to do with it, right? So
Mhm.
probably there is a gap that was not well captured by people, normal person to go on the search tab on a Google tab and say, okay, and type stuff and get things around, right?
Mm.
So we felt that there was a need which definitely becomes the gateway for internet, okay,
Right.
which offers something more curated from a user perspective across different lifestyle, productivity, and entertainment that a common consumer would need. Okay,
Right.
rather than asking him to just jump in the ocean and try and figure things out, we
Mhm.
felt if there's something created in a more smart way where discovery is not a challenge, okay, why would the product not work? Okay,
Mm.
and that's where we started building our first browser, which was called Venus browser in 2017, and which we launched it.
Right.
We have about 2 million downloads on that one. So and we started learning from that. What are consumers looking at it? How consumer experience can be enhanced. So we started integrating the AI/ML engine on that one to give customized experience, localized experience, multilingual, regional contents, okay, which is very hard for people to discover, find, and all that. In the
Mm.
process, we realized that there was a huge challenge with the app ecosystem guys who were struggling from discovery and B from retention. Okay, so we said if we become a marketplace for these guys, started offering a placeholder for these guys to reach out a larger base, they
Mhm.
also gain in the process, and consumers gain, and in the process we also gain. Okay, so that's the reason we started this. In the journey, what we realized was the Chinese product, which is called UC browser, became started gaining adoption in the country. We usually
Right.
understand from our sources, so over 200 million users at one point UC had in India, which was a kind of a validation of what Blue Sky was trying to do. Okay.
Mhm.
Then who better, like if you're an Indian guy, who better would know what a Tamil guy needs versus what a Kashmir guy needs, right? So we would be more know better in terms of the taste preference service by talking to people, doing some market research than somebody coming from outside and trying to build stuff for India.
Right.
So just one second.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So that is where we started building our product
Okay.
and learning around it. So we basically built a publisher platform, and so we thought a little bit more because B2C is a tough business to survive and sustain unless until you have huge investment coming from the VC community and all that. And we were bootstrapped, so we knew that B2C is good for us to understand consumers, but it's
Mhm.
difficult to scale it up. Okay, from a consumer acquisition cost dynamics and all that.
Right. Right.
And so this publisher platform then became accessible to any OEM for a white label product, any telco for their own VAS services, because telcos lost out completely. Okay,
Right.
because
Right.
with the smartphone, telcos were the biggest loser on the whole space.
Mm.
Uh, they used to have a good percentage of high margin money coming in from VAS services,
Vast
which
services. Right.
suddenly got offloaded completely to the Android ecosystem the moment the smartphone came in, right? And telcos became a simple kind of a data pipe for most of
Mm.
the users. So so when I started interacting with the telcos, I felt and when we used to talk to them, when I used to see the numbers, I said, guys, you are the key core enabler. You have the pulse of the customers. You understand customer profiling. Why should you be not be part of the journey of making a small cut for yourself? Okay,
Right.
the
Right.
whole process. And and so that's where the publisher platform started becoming interesting for some of these larger telcos to look at it. And I guess that was one of the inspiration why Geo browser came into light, where Jio launched their own browser product, and we are hopeful. Hopefully, you might see more telcos launching a similar product for themselves, right?
Yeah, that should, I think, happen, and particularly after Geo, the entire telco space is getting reoriented. So
Correct.
you made two interesting observations. One is, of course, there is a huge population for whom discovery is an issue. So Bharat Browser definitely fits in there, and that's one interesting thing. And second, of course, is scaling up a B2C kind of a business. Now, in digital, there is a inherent thing that there is definitely an early mover or first mover advantage. We know in any case of app, in any app, whosoever moves first, is able to establish that base, and it becomes difficult for the second one to kind of come into that. So looking at these two different, okay, one, I don't think that needs any further explanation. The discovery side, I think that's the real value proposition there. But on this, aspect where, first, do you agree that it's very, very difficult to have, somebody trying to replicate or trying to do something similar, which is already there in the digital space? And in that case, how do you see your go-to-market strategy? Although you explained a bit of it, but how do you see, making it, ramping it up to may another million or another 10 million subscribers? How are you kind of thinking of doing that?
Yeah, so we have a couple of models in mind. So there are smart way of making the app reachable through what you call is influencer marketing, which is relatively cheaper than the conventional Google marketing or some state ad marketing.
Right,
So because it's also about communicating to people on why this product would make sense to them, right? Because sometimes the small banner ad doesn't reflect what
absolutely.
you told them. So we are already working on some of those digital marketing channels. So of course we want to make Bharat Browser an interesting proposition. We also looking at government if they want to kind of help us in any way to promote this by because we have already added a lot of government properties on our application, and we would
Right,
be more open to add some of those aspects from a state perspective and all that. So one of our core differentiation, if you've seen the product, is that we create a state category where you give you the state level app services, government services,
right,
and the content in your own language. So that's been a huge traction. So we just ran some pilots campaigns in a very targeted markets like the southern market or the eastern markets, and we've seen huge response. Okay,
okay,
so really, this is something. What we're looking at is like if people are so interested and people have been downloading UC browser and using it for 200 million plus user base already exists, and consumers want to help an Indian startup stand against UC browser, then this is an opportunity to help startup which has a Bharat browser in the market, right? So
okay.
we are hoping that interactions like this and the media interactions we had in past can help us take the communication out to the end user rather than going and conventionally trying to acquire users through standard marketing, which we'll do anyway. So given our bandwidth, we have also been approached by a few investors who are showing interest in investing.
Mm,
So hopefully we will raise some money in the company because we want to make this big.
right. So, again, I think some interesting points here as well. So definitely, right now, there are sentiments which are favoring, some of the, so to say, make in India brands, and I think, if I'm observing, there were, earlier also some such similar sentiments, but right now I think it's an all-time high. Even in case of smartphones, we are seeing this as a trend growing on, and there were some public reports by, say, the channel people and others, that there is some preference towards India brands or non-Chinese brands, so to say. But in technology, do you believe that that's the only thing which can work in terms of, it can be only the emotional quotient which will work, or there has to be some more differentiator which can make the difference and convince users? I think in your case, it is already there because there's a lot of localization, rather hyper localization done. So that's there. But maybe in case of other products, essentially hardware, do you think that there's a need to do perhaps a bit more than probably just to hope that we will be able to get something or write something on this emotional sentiment which is around right now?
No, I think you're hitting a very interesting point. The sentiment is good, but the sentiment needs to be pragmatic and practical. Okay,
Right.
so there are sectors which was being exploited from an import perspective. Those
Mm.
needs to be blocked. Okay, because India had that capability, and COVID is a good example where the entire COVID ecosystem got created overnight in India. Right.
Right.
So there is evidence enough that there is potential in the market, and those potentials needs to be encouraged. Okay, like there's
Mm.
been classic examples of why agarbattis or even our idols get imported from China, right? So
Yes.
obviously, those are some very obvious ones, and there is economic opportunism there. Okay, that companies have been enjoying that, and that needs to be tackled. But when it comes to say electronics, right? Electronics is a very complex space. It
Right.
is a journey. China didn't wake up on one morning and said we're going to make all in China, right? It took them a good 10 years to get to this point where they are today. So I think the government has been trying to do a lot, but I don't think they're doing enough to kind of get this expedited. The what China has done, it can easily happen in India. There's no dearth of talent or the supply ecosystem that will not want to create it. It's just that the policies need to be right, the frameworks will be right, and it will be still be a journey. It can't
Mm.
be overnight. See, the reason why software is different because India has been always been treated as a software hub, right?
Right.
Globally, we
Absolutely.
exporters of all the software across globe, the way China is exporter of practically all hardware.
Mm.
Okay, all commodity hardware, whatever you want to call it. The question here was the why was even Chinese software is dominating in India?
Mm.
Okay,
Mm.
so there needs to be more root cause analysis on that front on how why Indian companies couldn't take off, right? If you
That
look
is
at the example of uh, look at the
interesting.
examples of Chingari and Mitro and all that, why did they suddenly wake up? Today I read somewhere and understand that they have 20 million, 50 million users suddenly. Okay, why wasn't this done 3 years back? What
Mm.
was lacking in that? Did did the government programs fail, the incentives failed? Are we doing the right stuff to boost the startup ecosystem? So when I
Mm.
compared at the incentives, what I don't know about the China data, but I was hearing a forum in UK, and the amount of incentive that goes from the in UK to help a startup, both from the investor side and the investment side, is very very encouraging. Okay,
Okay.
gives a lot of a small example was it gives a lot of tax benefit for any individual or a company that invest in startups.
Mm.
Okay, so why should not that be something which can be created in India, where
Mm.
more and more individual angel investors will start investing in startups and get an advantage on the tax benefit and all that. Okay, why can't startup be seen as a CSR initiative? Okay, so
Yeah.
things like that. I think, and those thoughts needs to also kind of move in to incentivize the manufacturing side. Get the low hanging ones fast. Even China doesn't do bulk of the
Mm.
chipsets today.
Right.
Largely done in Taiwan. So there are certain domains which will remain dominant positioning in particular countries. Don't run behind that. There's no point in setting up a fab overnight in India. It's not going to work out. But there are areas on the phone that can be completely handled in India. How can
Mm-hmm.
we incentivize Okay, so those are ways of smartly kind of handling the situation and
Okay.
trying to put a roadmap for 3 to 5 years, impose certain benefits and not handcuffs. Okay, because that's not going to work out.
Right. So one question I wanted to come to, and just want to hear from your experiences. So many a times I feel, for many people, they want to pursue an idea, but they don't have an idea. Okay, and I think that's how most of the startups evolve here. Barring a few who are very clear what they want to do, others just jump and they want to do something, but then they don't know what to do. So just helping them out, what are, in your opinion, some of the technologies, which could be explored in next couple of years? That's my first question. Second, any impact you see due to COVID-19, whatever it will be now the new normal, and what is the new normal? Any other opportunities opening up for startups to consider?
Sure. I think let's take the first one, right? When you
Hmm.
look at any startup, right, there are three pillars in that one, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
One has to be a innovation which is addressing a consumer, community, society use case, right?
Right.
The startup kind of germinates that. The second is the execution of that program, right?
Hmm.
From a product application using the latest technologies, whether it's AI or AR, VR, or using the element which makes the product stand out and compete with the global marketplace, right? We can't be very stuck on just making something for India. Our products have to stand against the global market.
Right.
Okay. Third piece, which I feel the biggest gap is when you are just out of the college or with a limited 5 to 10 years of experience, you jump into a startup. You're not mature in terms of the business aspect of things.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
So most of the startups I've seen in my last 4 years, and I would have talked to at least over 1,000 startups by now. So,
Wow.
so I can tell you that most of them struggle on a go-to-market plan, don't know how to sell what they create. Okay,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
they do this vicious cycle, and they go all excited that this is an interesting problem to solve, but they don't know how to take it to the consumer. Okay,
Right.
or to the company. Okay, because that's where the complexity is. So when I select a startup, I try and see how I can bridge this the second and third bucket very carefully. Okay, because
Hmm.
second is more about strategy and execution of the product, and the third bucket is how you help them on the go-to-market strategy perspective. Who is your right TG? How do you reach them? How do you help them close businesses? Okay, and that's the journey, and that's the complexity. So I won't say there is you need to worry about too much about the technologies. I think the technologies come as a part of the package based on the products.
Right.
Okay, so big data is anywhere big technology that most of the companies are using it. There are numerous tools that people are accessing now and
Right.
analytics and stuff around that. So analytics will always be a part of life. Okay, and how you package things around going forward, right? So that's so I'm not too worried about technology. Your second question was about COVID, right? See,
Right.
COVID opened up three very interesting space, right? One was the what do you call it, the medical side of things, right? Which was more about testing, diagnosis, medical infrastructure like ventilators and all that. So and and then the second piece was more about the consumer-led aspects, right? The sanitization,
Right.
the mask, the PPE kit, and the other accessories that started building up. And third piece was like solutions which helps the companies get back to work, right? Get how do you go back to normalcy, right?
Right. Right.
So, so the lockdown addressed the first two buckets because we saw the ecosystem getting created in terms of the medical requirements, the FMCG requirements, or the asset requirement for this one. The third bucket is where it becomes very interesting because life cannot be stuck because of COVID. So people have to get back to it. Now, what are the startups there are? So I've been interacting with multiple startups on this space, right? So
Okay.
there are startups who are working on social distancing tracking, right? So in a corporate environment, how do you track people and map it out? in a factory or in an office, if he gets infected, who was he in touch with the last 10 days, right? So,
Mm.
and so they have created an IoT variable that can track things around it. Okay, more of an indoor tracking kind of a solution. Before that, if you look at it like how can I create a medical system or medical diagnostic device which can be used for pre-testing of employees, factory workers coming to work. So there's an
Right.
interesting company that I am helping out of India and Canada. They have a product called Scanboard, right? And the Scanboard does a lot of testing in terms of it's a self-diagnostic kit, which can be
Okay.
used for ECG, blood pressure, oxygen saturation level, temperature, and all that. Okay, so those kind of devices become very, very companies who are coming out with those kind of devices. The other one is obviously what we have seen is like the ultra UV sterilization and the automatic temperature check, large thermal scanners and stuff around that, right? So there is a whole lot of ecosystem that has already started emerging in India
Right.
across various dimensions that you look at it, right? So it is a good, it gave a good opportunity for a lot of startups to readjust their plans
Mm.
for creating products that could work in home.
Right.
So that was another requirement, right? So,
Absolutely.
so a lot of my startups, they started looking at the space on readjusting their strategy to make the product which can be used at home.
Mm.
Okay, so
Absolutely. I often tell people that probably going forward, people might not be, okay, as per the requirement, they would be definitely looking for a 2 BHK, 3 BHK flat. But I think study is now going to be something very essential for people, looking in the architecture. Okay, do you have a study in the flat, option available? So yes, things are getting changing. Before I reach on to something on a lighter note, just want to understand from you, since you are observing a lot of data getting consumed on your platform and there are data patterns out there. So have you seen any interesting insight around data consumption behavior during this COVID period on your platform?
yeah, absolutely, and I think we are not different, right? If you look
Mhm.
at up to any content guy or a services guy, even I was being told that even e-commerce sales have picked up because people are spending more time on the
Right.
on doing shopping online than and anyway they're restricted to go out.
Mm.
So you're obviously seeing much more engagement, whether you take metrics like session duration or the number of sessions that an individual is doing on a daily basis. So we see that the amount of the touch point the user has on my platform, I can really see that the engagement levels are way too high than
Okay.
what used to exist before the COVID phase, right? So that was more preconceived kind of thing. I would open this app because I want to read the news. I would open this app because I want to play a game or do some shopping on Bharat Browser kind of a thing.
Mm.
Okay, but now they're more engaged because they are spending time on our platform. On an average, we see that each session lasts for at least 12 to 15 minutes, which is very high for a platform which is not a OTT platform. Right? So
I I personally like the education, tab or section on your, browser. So I quickly showed my kid that, okay, please,
yeah,
this is something you should definitely explore. That
uh,
that sounds to be something, interesting. Now, coming on to, knowing Dinesh Prasad. Yes, I know Dinesh Prasad, Qualcomm, Bluesky, investor, and many other things. But who is Dinesh Prasad beyond that? Like, we don't know much of it. So could you just share about yourself?
yeah. So my journey or my life has been in a uh, very what do you call standard uh, family size Indian family culture. We all grown in a middle class family environment, and I come from Bihar.
Right.
So, but you know the we have been blessed with our parents giving us the right education culture, so we got a chance to get educated in good colleges, good schools. So and that probably is the reflection in what we are today at this point of time. So that's the family background. I have two daughters, and they are in their early teens, and they started getting to high school and college. So that's the family part of it. The interesting part is like, or the way I look at myself is that I'm more of a guy who wants to learn, keep on learning new things.
That's
Okay,
great.
I get excited. I get very bored with any stuff for a very long time. So I can't continue with anything on a sustained basis. So
Oh,
that was one motivation to keep on driving new ideas, new companies. So I get extremely excited with startups, and they kind of fail to understand why an advisor is putting this much of time for the value that he's charging us. So definitely I'm a very different person who gets excited by technology, gets excited by the the consumer requirements, transforming that into a product, taking it to the market, making it live. So I'm more of that kind of. I was also blessed in my last 25 years to spend maybe visited almost half the world. So I think that's what I am. My normally I'm a what I used to play cricket, badminton, stuff around that. I love movies. So music is a big thing. I'm a big fan of Jagjit Singh's ghazal and stuff
oh,
around that.
oh, so we share that. Okay. When I was kind of, conceptualizing these interactions, and when I was thinking, should we get into knowing the person? Okay. Then I shared this format with a couple of, colleagues and ex-colleagues and friends. Now they were like, "Why are you bringing in this one? You want to." So the idea of interactions was to stimulate, startups, students, and others. That's the and early stage professionals also. That's the idea of this interactions. So it was like, why do you want to get this element? I said, no, I think perhaps this is very important for anyone to know that, people who have achieved something also come from, similar backgrounds. They are not coming in from, something, alien world, and they have all things, available, and they were able to achieve because of that. So they're coming from similar backgrounds. You people are from the same background. So you can also probably aspire and achieve. So that was the idea of getting into the, this knowing person and getting on the softer sides. Well, I think we have reached towards the end. I really thank you, Dinesh, for your time, and I'm sure after watching this episode, many early stage professionals, and I hope some of those CXOs who are still scared because of that SMS may also decide to venture out and really create something very very interesting, not just for themselves but for consumers and economy and nation as a whole. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Faisal. It's lovely talking to you. Take
Same.
care, man.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.